Everyone is creative.
A creative life requires
bravery and action,
honesty and hard work.
We're here to support and celebrate
and encourage you to make the things that you love.
We believe in the power of community.
We believe in giving a damn.
We believe in face-to-face connections,
in learning from others,
in hugs
and high fives.
We bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose,
confident they will inspire one another,
and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world.
Everyone
is welcome.
How do you see the world? How do you want to change it? Vision refers both to the sense of sight and our ability to imagine the future. Are you focused on the little details? Can you see the big picture? As we age, our eyesight begins to deteriorate. Seeing objects up close gets more difficult. And as we gain experience, what we want to accomplish evolves. Will your life grow darker or brighter? Each creative act involves seeing something in your mind's eye, then attempting to make it a reality. A painter, an architect, and every other type of artist or craftsman has a vision for their work. What message, emotion, or impact do you want to convey in yours? You are your visionary. What do you want to see? Speaking of visionaries, our special guest today is a movement practitioner, a mindfulness teacher, an acrobat, a wellness facilitator, and a bunch of other things that he'll talk about today. Devon French, whose actual name in the Acroyoga language is Shwikla. I said that closely. His bio is very impressive, but you've all read it, so let's skip that, shall we? I have just a few things for you. He lived in Sweden for 6 months when he was 21 years old and learned the language while there. Crazy. He's traveled the world all the way around 3 times. He spent 2 months living in the traditional Samaquam territories, the Lillooet area, in the interior, right on the land. Please give a warm welcome to Devon French.
Hello everyone. I'm Shui Clout, or Devon French. I want to start by introducing myself in Upamuke so that you can all hear the language that's near this area there, so that you can sort of get exposed to it, because I'm sort of a living land acknowledgement. And so, so in Shuitauch and Squatchich, Shem and Squatchich is Devon French, Nish Upamuke. So I just said my name is Shuitauch. The Shema is my white people name is Devon French, and I'm Ukwamuk, which means I'm a person of the land. When I was asked to speak, my initial response, I felt a yes. And so for me, I feel into my body when people ask me things, and I hear, and when I hear, and I think my mind often has a response as well, but I usually try to listen to what my feeling is. And I had an initial feeling of like an excitement of this is an opportunity for me and I should take it. And so I trusted that feeling, and after that feeling my mind got involved and was like, what about, and all of these things started happening, all the question marks started arising. Am I going to be able to do this, blah, 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 blah. And like we saw in the previous speaking is that being creative requires bravery. And so for me to step up here and to put myself in front of you all and to speak requires bravery. And it requires a sense of humility as well, because not only am I talking at you, but I'm being received by you as well. And so I really want to say that I appreciate you all, and I want to specifically appreciate my family who showed up for me and my friends from my communities who came here to support me and to lift me up. And so thank you all so much for being here. And I wanted to start because some of you may have read the questions that I responded to online. And one of them was, what do I do when I get stuck creatively? And for me to start moving again, I actually need to do the opposite, and that's to completely stop. And in order to stop, I need to stop input, right? So I try to go still, to close my eyes, and to take time to reflect and feel and connect to my body. Because as I mentioned, I trust my feelings, and in order to do that, I need to be very in tune with my instrument, which is my body. And so I'll ask you all, I want to offer 2 roles that you could take in this exercise. One of them is that you're going to be a participant in the exercise, so you'll follow along with it as I describe. Another role that I'd like to offer is that if you'd like to help hold space with me, that you can stay with your eyes open and observe the space. And so if you feel more comfortable sort of holding space / being more in like eyes open and taking in the space role, then do that. And if you want to participate, then I'll ask you to take a moment now to close your eyes and turn your attention inwards. So, perfect. And if you keep your eyes open, what you're doing is you're helping hold space for those around you, and you're creating a bit of security because our eyes are open. We're watching the space for each other and keeping each other secure. So if your eyes are closed or open, just start to tune into your breathing. And just notice first the quality of your breath. After you've taken a few breaths, just notice what is your body feeling right now. So an interesting thing that most of us have places in our bodies that will be very loud. So they draw our focus or attention very easily. And so when that happens, I don't resist. So release resistance. If there's something in your body requiring focused attention, then allow your focused attention to go to that space. Another form of resistance that appears in these pause moments is thought patterns. So sometimes then you're thinking, well, what's going to happen next, or what's going on in the day, and all of that. What about my taxes? Like, all of those kinds of things start to arise, and again, I like to do my best not to create resistance, so just let that play out like a record. It's just in the background playing. And as you observe, whichever of those things is requiring more of your focus today, just taking in those breaths in and out through your nose. Eventually, you can start to allow your focus to spread out a little bit more. So if you're noticing one space in your body, try to notice another space in your body. And then keep expanding your focused attention through your body until you can feel connected through all the way to the soles of your feet. So you can feel the tips of your fingers, that you can feel your scalp, the muscles in your face. And allow this to be a moment if you're feeling any kind of tension or kind of anticipation, to see if you can soften that out with some breaths, taking those full inhales and full exhales. And then just to unify us all for a breath, if we can all just empty our lungs, so just exhale completely. And then take a full inhale. And then a nice long exhale. Perfect. Thank you for those of you who kept your eyes open and supported the space with me. And if you're ready, you can open your eyes, and also feel free, if you're enjoying that internal space, to stay in it and just listen. So when I saw the vision as the Creative Mornings talk this morning, I think first about myself. And I'm blessed to have come from a culture where I was raised within some of my traditional teachings and participated in ceremony and sweat lodge. And so when I consider vision, the first stage would be, what do I want to see in the world for myself? And so my first step is to, again, to take that pause, to feel into myself, and to sort of see, how do I feel within my communities and within my environments, and what can I do to feel more at home in those places? And then if I take a step outside of that, my next step would be that I ask my family. So if I'm going to bring something into the world, like I did Acroyoga and I trained yoga, all of those things, before I release something to the community, a new vision or an idea, I typically run it past my family, because when it comes to sweat lodge ceremony, everything expands outward in a careful way. And so the next stage is that I discuss things with my family and then my close network of friends. And I'll take the feedback that I receive and then adjust if needed, or if I get support that this is a good vision, this is a good way to move forward, then I'll take a step forward to bring something to a larger group of people. So I want to take us a wider step into Shamakum, which was mentioned, which is the nation that I'm part of. So it's interesting for me because Shamakum has its own vision for its community and for its peoples. And because I'm a member of the Shamakum nation, the vision of Shamakum affects me personally as well. And so when Shamakum holds a vision, which right now a lot of our people are looking for cultural language and tradition reclamation. And so as Shamakum holds that vision, for me I thought, how do I personally align with this? And considering that since a young age I've always loved to work with language, and I went to Sweden and learned the language, and I think I have a sort of an ear for this. So I think it would make sense for me to work with reclamation of my traditional language, the Ukumyuch language. And so I've been working on a project for that for the last year, and I just want to share a cute video with you all just before I talk more about it. So let's see if I can work this. So this is me and my son Dash, and we've been uploading an Ukumyuch word of the day on Instagram as a goal for us to try to include more. Well, thank you. So our goal is to include more of the youth in language learning, and so getting my son involved was a good idea. So I'll play this for you.
Namaskar, everybody.
Today's Ukumyuch word of the day is
Kukstamkau.
Kukstamkau means thank you. Kukstamkau for taking the time to watch this video, and have an Amashkite today. And so this is me and my son, and we have a team of 4 language learners that we have been sort of immersed in the language. We are doing a blended immersion project, and that project has helped me a lot because not only do I get to learn my language, but I also get to work creatively, because I facilitate Zoom meetings once a month, and we cycle through where the language interns learn how to learn other skills as well. So we learn to facilitate, and we have to also think about how would I help somebody to understand, to learn this language. Because we don't like to think of ourselves as teachers yet, because we were not raised with the language. We were raised outside of it, and we heard it as children, but we weren't like immersed in it, and so we don't feel like we're experts. But what we do know is that we've spent the last year and a half learning, and so we do know the process that we went through. and that what it takes to learn a language, and to, again, it comes to that feeling of putting yourself out there. I don't know, has anyone out here learned a second language in their adult life? No, wow, a lot of you. So you get this sense of, when you go to speak, there's this freeze feeling, and it's quite a vulnerable experience. And so part of our language project is that the language interns, every week we post ourselves speaking in front of our community. And so that way we are practicing speaking in front of the people, we are practicing speaking our language in front of an audience. And the other thing that we didn't expect this, but when we started doing that, it was sort of like, it was a vision that our small team project had, that this will be a good way for us to understand, to put ourselves out there, to practice, and to get over that fear. But what happened from that was, which we didn't expect, is that a lot of people who could speak the language and we didn't know started speaking the language more. Because when we started coming into community gatherings, the people that were holding language within them and maybe didn't know if they'd be understood, or now they saw every week there's people speaking, so more and more people started speaking. And now it's been an amazing experience for me, because we have one of our elders in our community who often will do prayers in our language during our community meetings. And after a year, I was able to understand probably 80% of what he said. And so it was a really neat experience to be like, going from, I don't know if I can learn this language, to I know some words, to being able to understand elders when they speak, was a very, very touching experience. Yes, so I need to take a second here too. Like, okay, because I have so many lenses through which I live creatively, / where my vision has been a part of and or founding for communities, and one of them is Acroyoga. Does anybody know what Acroyoga is? Yeah, some people, right? Would anyone want to see what Acroyoga is? So I'll ask Addie to come up with. We'll give you a short demo. Sure. So that's Acroyoga. So I'm gonna switch gears from the language, because the language is one of my work right now, and it's one of my most meaningful projects. But also, I'm one of the founders of the Acroyoga community here, and so we're at a cool place, because at first the vision of Acroyoga was sort of amorphous. It was just, we all love doing this thing, but we didn't have a vision. There wasn't a community vision of like, what are we doing with this thing, or where are we going? And recently, the community has started to come together and develop that. We're like, what does community mean to us? Because like we asked at the beginning, it's interesting to think what community could mean something different to every single person in this room. And so first, like, to make a vision, we would need to understand, what does this community or this group of people who gathers think community means? And then from there, we can start to develop a vision. So that's the Acroyoga part, where we're currently deciding, like, everybody has their own personal visions for the practice, but when we all gather, what would the vision be as a whole? And so I think that often we are being impacted by larger visions around us, like the communities we operate within. And like for me, the language work, my vision for learning language came because of a need for our people. And then for Acroyoga, I didn't know that I had a need for connection and touch until I saw the practice and was revolted by it. And I was like, people touching each other. Like I was doing mostly just yoga, and so when I saw that, I was like, ooh, like that's not for me. And then it just so happened that I was doing yoga with somebody, and she was like, let's just try it, and we did, and it was actually really fun, and it was comfortable. And then that was like a way for me to help, or to sort of start working through something I didn't even know was an issue. And so I find that just being within those community bubbles, you often learn things that you don't know. And yeah, I took notes because I'm starting to feel like I'm getting a bit scattered up here. So I'll stay within the Acroyoga context a little bit longer, because I guess you would all have exposure to something called the creative process, or something that we in Acroyoga call the creative process. And for me, I hadn't sort of ever thought, like what me and Addie just did on the stage, of like, would I ever put myself on a stage and perform in that way? And I didn't think about doing that until I was exposed to acro. And so the creative process, and what we call in acro, is you enter into a space with somebody, and we do our best not to say no to any ideas. And then I'll bring it back to that feeling sense, because now, before I was talking just about myself, like I had my vision and I know what my vision is, and now with Acroyoga you're co-creating with somebody else, and both parties carry their own vision strongly. And when you come together, in order for something to feel good on both parties, you need to be able to have both parties feel like this is a yes. And it's not just a yes. There's a yes on so many levels. It has to be a yes like, that was exciting and fun, I want to try it again. And that maybe it looked cool if we're trying to make a performance. It sort of has to be visually appealing. But for me and for the people I typically collaborate with, we look for the feeling of a yes. And so that's sort of where I started to learn how to collaborate creatively, was through Acroyoga. I'm feeling that I don't really have much more to say. I'm like feeling like I think like talking and sharing about myself feels a bit complete for me right now. And so,
that's because everybody.
yeah. So I did forget one slide. This is our team. So when you look there, you can see Alicia, my mom, Sheikh, who's in the room here with us. And so we're all taking turns posting a Nukabing word of the day. And when we do that, the goal here is that the more people see others doing it, the more they think I can do this too. And so we're trying to make it very accessible. Because often with Indigenous language, you sometimes it feels like it's not possible to learn, because you've probably all seen it when it's written. It's hard to, how would I even pronounce it? And so a lot of our work is in being like, you can do it, and help people to understand that you will learn those things with time.
So much. I am strongly attracted to humility and vulnerability in these moments, and you just ooze vulnerability and humility in such a compelling way, and you are not done.
Yeah.
We are gonna do a little conversation, and we're gonna come back. I bet there are so many cool questions in the audience. I have 12. Okay. Let's take a minute. We'll take maybe 7 or 10 minutes. And this is the first time in this crowded room, so let's see how this goes. Your chairs are movable chairs. If you've been to Creative Mornings before, show the new people around you how this works. We're going to just spin into little groups, and we're going to have some impromptu conversation about what you heard, what you didn't hear, what you want to know more about, where is your curiosity taking you. We'll see you back in a few minutes. do some questions and answers before we depart. I see a hand back here. We don't have a ton of time, so keep it short and let's go.
Hi Devon, my name is Matt. Thank you very much. Also, I just want to say thanks for your sincerity. It was very palpable and much appreciated. Speaking about your journey into linguistics and language of your home community, can you please comment on place names and how any reflections you might have had came about with regards to how things are called in terms of the names of places?
Definitely. So, I guess where I would bring this is that until I had gone to England and saw the place names that are here in England, then I was like, this doesn't make sense. What I ended up learning is that place names, like learning the place names of the Indigenous place names here, is something that is a meaningful way of combating erasure. Because a lot of times we speak of Indigenous people as being in the past, but if we bring those place names back and use them now, then that's a way of saying, no, we're here and these place names have meaning. And so I also worked on a project just before the language, which was bringing place names back, and we put signs and put the place names through our territory, so they're there now. So if you happen to go down Lillooet Lake Road, you can stop and you can see and learn the place names. And we actually put a welcome sign up that says, welcome, like here's a way that you can behave, like you can exist respectfully in the territory, and here's the place names, and learn them as a part of like becoming part of the reclamation of our language as well. So thank you.
Okay. I'm on, yes.
Had two questions, but they were just really slow, I found it smart. One of them is, could you speak to how many speakers of the Ukamute language there were when you started the reclamation? And also, in the 3 questions you mentioned living on the land for 2 months. Could you speak a bit about that?
Sure. So when we started, I believe there was around 30 speakers left. And so that means that the language is very endangered. And now, after the project's been going for just over a year, I would say that those of us in the project went from being a level 0, so they have a 0 to 8 of like within language, and now we're all at a level 4, like going toward 5. And so soon we will be one of those 30 speakers of being fluent in our language. And so we're reclaiming it and passing it down as well. So teaching my son and teaching the younger generation is what will save the language in the long run. And then speaking about the 2-month living on the land, it was one of those feeling things that I trusted. And I was teaching yoga in Vancouver, and I had a sudden feeling that was, you need to go to your home territory and live off the land. And my family has a farm that's been generationally passed down. And so I just put everything here, packed everything I had, and just went out and lived like directly on the land. I just slept like in the dirt with a teepee covering me. Very cliche, not even our people's way, but we had one. It was for the image. For Instagram? It was for Instagram. Even though at the time I was not into Instagram at all, I'm more into it now. But, yeah, so I did that, slept in the dirt, I actually didn't talk for 2 weeks because I was alone, and then suddenly I heard my voice and I was like, whoa, I haven't actually made a sound because there's nobody here. And so lots of quiet, lots of reflection, and definitely got to know the wildlife.
Lots of wildlife came to visit.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, I've heard that the way that we are taught to speak is the way that we're taught to think. And I was wondering if as you're learning your language, has it changed the way you think and perceive, or has it resonated with ways that you think and perceive that are different from the way that white people are taught to think and perceive?
Really good question. And I want to start by saying, because I've been asked this question in the past, and what I would say is that at this point where we are right now in the project, we are starting to realize that the way that we think in English does not help us understand how to speak Ukamute properly. And so often we think, I want to say, like, how are you today? But then the way that we would say that is not relevant in the way that we live here. And so there is a difference. And what's starting to come to my attention more, the difference I would say is that the way that we speak is we speak more with we and they and like groups rather than so much with I. And so that's what's starting to stand out to me is I'm finding myself thinking with more group thinking of how am I impacting this group of people and what can I bring to this group of people and what does this group of people want or need. And I have a feeling that's coming from learning the language as I can feel myself starting to be more caring of larger bodies and also wanting to know from other people, like what do you see for this? And so I feel like that's from the language.
We'll do a couple more. I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Not everybody is as blessed with svelte, thin figures like you and I. And so I truly believe that a creative life well lived often involves trying scary stuff, which you talked about that, boldness. I agree with you. And so, like, I imagine, could Mark Bussey be an Acroyoga participant? How would one do that? To me, that seems terrifying. I would feel so, like, wrestling with shame and like, I'm not the right, I'm going to make mistakes, who's going to teach me? I feel I'm embarrassed. Like, how does that go? How would you convince me to try that, right?
I would start by saying that I shared that same experience as you. When I first saw it, I was like, definitely not my thing, and so it was an immediate like, no. But then I would also say that you and a lot of you here are really big with community and participating in things, and Acroyoga is a really cool way to physically connect with somebody. Because we often connect with ideas and words, but when you physically touch somebody, there's a whole different world of communication that opens up that I think would be very enriching to people's lives to have that experience. And I think in one of my questions I said that often even for me, when I saw dancers or acrobats, I was like, that's not me, like it's not my thing. But I will say that if you just take that first, you'll be held, just like for me coming into this space new, and I felt very held and supported by all of you. So the Acroyoga community has that sense of holding and lifting people, and we do physically lift each other up.
Just promise him he'll keep him fly.
Right.
He'll make him fly.
Yes.
If somebody in the room today wanted to get involved, they could contact you, or what's the best place to do?
Yep, you can contact me through Instagram because my channels are already up there. Yep. There's also a Facebook group called Acroyoga Vancouver, and if you add yourself to that, then you can see there's classes happening all the time, and so there's like beginner, and definitely attend classes before attending a jam, because we have this thing called jams, and that's where people come expecting to already have knowledge. So if you show up there, it'll be a different experience, but if you go to a class, the teachers will guide you through and support you through.
I would definitely jam something. One or two. Who's feeling like they have a strong... whoa, okay. Then we're going to wrap this up. You know what? Each of you have questions quickly, and I keep this double response.
Okay, I had a quick question about Oakwood. How similar or how different all of the other languages compared to what someone else would say, or too far?
Yep. I think I caught the question.
How similar are Indigenous languages in this region? Of this sort of Salish coastal interior, can you mostly understand what another Salish speaker is speaking? And the second question is going to be...
So my question is around community vision. I really like the theme that you were talking about, where you were talking about how now you're reclaiming and rebuilding your culture. But I was wondering, now in Canada, it's something that's encouraged. Now, for example, we have the land acknowledgement, and so it's not so hard to reclaim it. And so in other cultures and other places now in the world, there are still some communities that are still being attacked. And so what do you think, what are some of the things that communities that live in these places can do where they can still reclaim their culture in a peaceful and loving way? And one of the communities that come to mind now, for example, the Palestinian people in Israel. Would love to hear your thoughts.
Okay, so the first one around the language, with the languages that are called Ukumyush, they have the same name. I can understand a little bit easier, and so sometimes I do understand what people are saying. Like if someone stood up here and introduced themselves in their language, I would understand what they were saying. And then there's the Halkaminum language, which is spoken by the Musqueam people, which the language body goes south. And so that I don't understand as well. But the ones that go north, I understand and feel more closely related. Yeah.
Second question?
Second question. That's a really big question. And I think if I reflect on it, I think that there's a lot of security and safety that comes up, because if you're practicing your culture in a place where it's being actively trying to be erased, I think that's very dangerous. And so I don't know. I think that what I would probably do is practice it in safety and security, and that's what our people did when we were being actively policed, and when we had laws that said we can't practice our culture. We did it in secrecy, and which is not ideal, but sometimes you have to take things secret and bring it in your own home and just not actively push it out in the world it could cause you to be harmed.
Another way of saying never give up.
Yes. Don't give up.
Never give up. Go really quickly.
Out of all your accomplishments and everything that you've done in this world, what are you most proud of?
I'll just cry in front of you. I'm most proud of my family and my son. So when I
is it Dash?
Dash, even watching the video of him just tears me up, and then having my family here and just having such a good connection with my family is what I feel the most proud of.
Devon French. All right. Before you leave, I have a card from our team for you with our heartfelt thanks. One of our collaborators and volunteers, Dave, is an artist. Oh, there he is. He's an artist and a woodworker and an entrepreneur and a very generous guy who takes reclaimed, no, not this. Yes, not voicing. He takes reclaimed wood and makes an original piece of art every month based on the theme, engraved and scribed on the back. And this is a gift for you.
Thank you.